Alright, so to go ahead and get started on this project, first thing we need to do is get this front bumper off, or at least the front bumper clip, get this thing out the way. A few other things we're going to have to modify on the coolant side, so we're going to have to get this intake out the way, this rotor fab intake out of the way. A few other miscellaneous items inside here, and I'll show you that as we go. And yeah, let's get after it. Alright guys, so I go in ahead and took the intake off. And so now we've got this big, good working space right here. I want to show you this, because this right here is what you're going to need to be working with whenever you start making your modifications. The best way to go about this is to follow the hose that goes to your bleeder hose right here. Follow it down to the pump, which is right here. You can see the pump, which is right down there. And what you're looking for is a 90-degree bend right here. What they want you to do is cut this hose right after this 90 degree, right in the middle, right where it starts to straighten out, right in the middle. So right here. So cut the hose right here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and mock this up. Go ahead and pinch off the coolant hose on either side so I can make the cut. And that way we can get started with getting the hose prepped for modifying and getting the hoses connected together. Okay, so I went ahead and crimped just before that 90 degree, guys, right there before that 90 degrees against the pump. Made a cut right where it starts to straighten out. And here's the other side. So again, this would have been connected to here, like so. Okay, and then connected there. Just cut it in half. And so now you have one end, and now you have the other end. So now we're going to go ahead and mount up the ice tank and start getting prepped for all the hose connections. Hey guys, I just wanted to talk to you about these real quick. These are your heat shrinks right here that you're going to be putting on in your hoses. I think the best way I've found to do this is you pretty much take a pair of pliers, crush it one way, take your pliers, crush it another way, okay, and then just kind of push it through. Take the other side, crush it a little bit. Take it this way, crush it a little bit, and then probably just come through here and push through. There it goes. Alright, so just push it right on through. Okay, there you go. Alright guys, as you can see right here, we're kind of looking at the front of the car. Okay, so this is the passenger side of the ice tank. I've already kind of mocked up this drain line that's right here. This is going to be what drains the coolant out so you can put your ice inside here. But what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be measuring where we need to go, because this right here is one of the clips that does snap right into here with your hose. It connects into here, but it does have to go through this piece of plastic. Now LMR has said that they delete these plastic pieces most of the time. I think it's really more just kind of like customer preference if you want to, retain this piece of plastic or not. I'm going to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out right here. I'm going to make a mark with some type of a marker of some kind, whatever it is, right here. And what I'm going to end up doing is I've kind of measured the size of the hose, which is one of the hoses right here. This is a 1-inch Dremel right here. That what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put through here, I'm going to take this piece back off, and I'm going to make a 1-inch hole right here so that that tube in one of these, the tube that's behind here actually right now, is going to come through the hole and then connect right inside there like so. So we're going to go ahead and measure out, make your mark right here, make your hole so that that tube can come through there, and then you can go ahead and start assembling your hose for the passenger side. Alright folks, I'm going to show you what I just did. So like I told you, I went ahead and made that hole and I put the hose up through here. And one thing that I also did do is because there is a fitting that's going to connect here, just like this is a GM fitting for the hose, I did have to trim the hose just a little bit to where when this does get lined back up, this actually lines up on that hose perfectly. If you guys can see that right there. So it's going to line up right on that crimp, right where it's supposed to, right here. Okay. Now the other thing that's going to happen next is I'm going to have to take one of these heat shrinks, put on the end of this hose right here, and it's going to slide around the end right here, and then I'm going to take this piece back off, take this hose out, put this on here, and I'm going to heat shrink this hose to this connector right here, this hose connector, so that way it'll stay on there and it will not come off. The only way to disconnect this hose now is right here. So that's what I'm going to do next. Alright, so what I'm going to do to kind of help guide this this piece in is I'm going to put some silicone spray on the edge right here. I'm going to take the end and push her through and get all the way on there. Alright, so now she's on there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our handy dandy trusty heat gun and we're going to go around this thing nice and slow and shrink this wrapping onto there so that it won't come off. Alright, so moving on to the next step, which we're going to be diving down here in the engine bay. This is the passenger side line right here that's coming in this way right here. So pretty much what you're going to do is take your hose that you cut, get it in place of where it's going to lay. Just route it down back under here underneath this AC hose. Line them up to where you know. Of course, make sure you take the connector, figure out that space because there's going to be a little bit of a space in between those two pieces. Alright? In between those two hoses right there, so you can make your cut and trim this down. It's going to be the next step, and then we're going to connect them together. Here's the last one that we've got to heat up with the heat gun. So this is coming from the pump and around to the front right here to this side of the ice tank. So this right here, I just put some heat wrap right there around this tube, which is the one that's going to the passenger side to here. And then that one, again, is feeding up through there, but I just put some heat wrap right there because that heat gun is going to be really close to that. And it's going to be a tight squeeze getting that heat gun back in this direction to heat it up over here and coming back around top over here. So just do the best you can. Okay guys, I'm going to show you this. We're going to follow this hose right here, coming through the plastic shroud, coming around underneath the Mighty Mouse sketch can, up over here, into the cut that we made, which follows it up, which we follow it to your bleeder up at the supercharger. Okay, and then this here is going to your pump. So right here is your pump line coming around to the start of the ice tank right here. Okay, so just want to make sure you guys get a good idea of what that looks like. Again, this isn't totally cleaned up yet, but make sure everything is away from your pulleys. I'm going to do some zip stripping and everything else to get it back over here away from everything. But I want to kind of give you an idea. There she is. Alright folks, so what we got to do now is we've got to make a hole for this drain line. That's part of the ice tank right here. So you can open this peacock right here. What's really cool, what LMR has done is they've allowed this drain line right here, so to utilize the ice for the ice tank. And what they've done is once you open this valve, it's going to drain out just enough inside this tank to where it will not get any air in the system, and it will keep a constant level of what you should be at. And again, you can fill the rest of it up and leave it alone for all intended purposes. Never have to put ice in it if you just want it for capacity only. But if you do want to get like the best IAT'S with this setup, put ice in this before a race or whatever it is that you're doing. You're just going to drain this out until it stops draining, and it's going to feed out the bottom, which we're going to make a hole right here. And then it's going to come down right through here, and it's going to come out the bottom of the car over here. And then once it's done draining, you're just going to cap it back off. And then you're going to put your ice in the top. And once you put the ice in the top, then you just ready, set, go. And it's never going to get an air bubble. It's never going to have too low of coolant, where people accidentally drain them too much in order to do that. So really, really cool feature. Really, really awesome design by LMP. So I'm going to go ahead and drill this hole out down here at the bottom. So we can get this drain line in there, and then you're going to probably have to modify the drain line just a little bit, just to, so it's not dragging on the ground. You just get it just enough sticking out to where, it's there and it holds itself in place. And there we have it. Drain line is ran down through. Now we're going to cut it to size to where it's sticking out the bottom just ever so much. Next up, we're going to be modifying the top radiator cover so that this can stick on through. I'll show you what I'm going to do for that. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and start this final step of modifying for the ice tank here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this piece that I have taped off. A couple key points that LMP has pretty much told me is make sure that you cut from the bottom, so that way in case your wheel jumps or anything like that, if you scar up anything, it's at least on the bottom side. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and I'm going to use a small Dremel to kind of smooth out the edges after I make my cuts, and we'll go from there. But here we go. And by the way, what I'm using my Milwaukee. It's an angle grinder pretty much with a metal cutting blade, and I've got it all taped off right here so you can kind of see the cut that needs to be made. So I'm going to try to follow along the best I can and use that Dremel for afterwards. So wish me luck. Okay, so there it is. Here's the piece cut out. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take got this little Dremel right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a just a little sanding bit on there, and I'm going to burr off all of these rough edges and kind of you know, make this into more of a circle instead of a right angle cut on each corner here, just to clean it up just a little bit and get all these burrs off here, so that way it's, you know, not going to cut me and stuff. And one thing I did do is I did get like a weather stripping kit from Amazon. I think it was like $5, but I'm going to surround the edge of this with this little small weather stripping, you know, even after I do deburr it, so that way it makes it nice and smooth and, you know, a clean finish. And just like that, got our spot. That's what she's going to look like through the hood. There you go, guys. Next step, putting fluids in it, putting the intake back on, giving her a first start. Alright, I wasn't going to bore you guys to death with putting the intake tube back on. I'm going to probably just leave the filter off for now. Doesn't really matter. Got to make sure your mass airflow sensor is connected. Make sure all your tubing's connected back right. Make sure you have your breather hose on. And now, what we're going to do is we are going to start filling up the coolant. And we're going to be checking in here, which is really cool. In here. Let's take the lid off there. And then, I'm going to start filling up. Okay, had to do a slight modification here. I had to get rid of the reservoir that I had for bleeding the system. Right here, I put the stock bleeder back on here and reconnected the stock hose, you know, that goes to the pump. This is probably what y'all's will look like versus what I had going on. The problem I was having is I was filling up the expansion tank up here, and as I was filling it up and I had this cap off, it was just overflowing out of here, because obviously this is the highest point. So this becomes almost like a sealed system. So this is what's supposed to bleed the system now. So I had to eliminate that because I do not think that these two are going to talk to each other. I did talk to LMP about it at first, and they said, you know, we think it will work, but again, they've never really tested it the way I just did it. So I just eliminated it just to, you know, I mean, it really wasn't, besides bleeding the system, it really didn't do much, but LMP said that this is the way that you can bleed your system now too. You just have this cap here, let this system run, let it burp itself, and you know, and it'll do it right here. So having two of them was maybe a little overkill, but it just seems like having this up here and this together, it really wasn't going to allow me to probably use the ice tank function of this. This would always probably just run dry because it is the highest point. So eliminated that, so I have it sitting right over here, right there. So I just went ahead and took it completely off. And so I'm going to go ahead and now it's a sealed system, and then this is where you fill up. So I've already filled it up pretty much. I just got to start the car and let it circulate and see what happens. So startup is next. All right, first startup. Everything back together, and that's what you want to see right there. Pump's working, pump's moving the fluid around. You know she's going. Not seeing any leaks here. Or down there. No leaks here. Gonna let it continue to burp itself. Go ahead and bleed itself out. Once it's done, Go ahead and top her back off a little bit. And now all we gotta do is put her back together. Well, I hope this video helped you guys.